read me? Max, I'll have you know that rocket science is my backup career in case teaching doesn't work out. My name is Justin Lanier, and I'm here to talk with you about the space around the bar. This is not the bar that I mean to refer to. Although, as a native of Louisiana, I hope that you enjoy your stay here in New Orleans. It's something of a homecoming for me being here. I grew up in this state, but I feel like I've come not just from New Jersey, but from like a million miles away, because I cut my teeth on this profession at St. Anne's School in Brooklyn, New York, where there are no grades and puppet parades, and Paul Lockhart taught down the hall. And now I work at the Princeton Learning Cooperative, where there are also no grades and math, and everything else is optional. The bar that I'm here to talk about is the Common Core, except I don't really want to talk about the Common Core and more so about the space around it, because I'm not an expert in the Common Core, but I do know something about the kinds of things that are not discussed in it. The Common Core looms really large, and rightfully so. It's a big deal. There are lots of strengths and weaknesses. There's stuff about implementation, but it can squeeze out of conversations, important conversations, topics that are close to my heart. This is also true for teachers. Teachers can feel the squeeze of standards on their own practice, and it can make things really hard for them, and they get anxious. The teachers that I most admire find in the Common Core and in standards something to support their teaching and see that as tools, and they feel big and the standards feel small, and that's awesome, and I want more teachers to feel that way, because standards and research and textbooks and curricula are important, but teachers are the point of contact between mathematics and students, and so what teachers believe and know and think and feel about mathematics is the most important. Let's talk about cores. Cores are important. Cores give structure. It's where the seeds are. It's how it connects to the tree, but the core is not the apple. The trunk is not the tree, and the floor is not the ceiling. There is more to see here than just the core. Do you see what's there in the negative space? Do you see those spaces? So much of what's important about mathematics is what is human about it. So take 15 seconds. Turn to your neighbor and name some mathematicians. All right, pause. Raise your hand if you are able to do that. Awesome. Many of your students would have a hard time naming mathematicians. Raise your hand if anyone you named was a woman. Raise your hand if anyone was a person of color. How about alive? Here are a lot of faces, and those faces have stories behind them. Those are mathematicians, and our students need to know their stories and their faces and be able to imagine themselves as mathematicians when they grow up. Dear math, I'm not a therapist. Solve your own problems. I'm going to talk about people, I want to talk about creativity, and I'm going to talk about feelings. That was people. This is creativity. Often we ask our students to solve math problems or other people's problems, but it's important for our kids to have a chance to be creative, to pose their own problems, to make a box that fits 100 cups without any other constraints, to come up with theorems and discover them on their own and name them, and to make mathematical art that isn't solving a problem, but is an expression of the patterns that they see themselves. Students will be able to and will never want to again. This is how we can write our lesson objectives if we don't pay attention to how kids feel about mathematics. And there is a huge range of feelings that kids can have. And they're all part of being human. I want all students to have all of these experiences. It's important to be frustrated and proud and satisfied and bored and eager, because all of those feelings make us better human beings and better mathematicians. So in addition to procedural fluency and conceptual understanding and the ability to apply, all students need a mathematical give-a-damn. They need mathematical heroes. They need a chance to be creative. And they need all kinds of feelings about mathematics. With two of my colleagues, Anna Weltman and Paul Solomon, I write a weekly blog called Munch. And this is where I spend so much energy and effort and attention and pour myself out in sharing with my students and our students all these other parts of mathematics. Over 2,000 years ago, our community said, if you give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, I can move the world. And I like that optimism, and I like the vastness of that vision. And so what I hope for you is that as you leave here, that you will go back to where you came from and use the Common Core as a tool and leverage it to change the world from your own standpoint.